Settle back and buckle up. Get ready to go green. RPS Promotions are about to launch you down the quarter mile. Your chance to see the best of the best face the ultimate test of speed.
Hello and welcome to Willowbank Raceway in Queensland for round one of the Top Alcohol Championships. Gary Phillips in the Aussie Bananas Dragster, a beautifully turned out machine.
Gary Phillips, the number one qualifier with a 6.06, and he's up against number 8, Stan Tyndall from New South Wales.
Stan Tyndall is a growing force in Australian top alcohol racing. Both of these competitors very professional. Stan gets out with a whole shot, but look at the horsepower from the Aussie Bananas car, right out of shape as Tyndall crosses the centre line, and Gary Phillips will pick up the win. Let's have a look at it on the replay.
On the rerun, you'll be able to see just how much the cars move around. Stan Tyndall really getting out of shape and crossing the centre line just behind Gary Phillips.
Well, still, it was a great pass from Phillips, a 6.03. That's a strong performance for him very early in the season. And it was just some pretty good driving from Stan Tyndall that kept that car off the wall. Here's the 1994 Australian Top Alcohol Champion, out to defend his title in this first round here at Willowbank, Stephen Reid.
Reid qualified in number 5 position with a 6.22, and he's up against fellow Queenslander John Noonan in the Top Gun Dragster, who qualified in number 4 with a 6.20.
Both these guys have had some wild rides in their seasons in top alcohol racing. Very, very experienced drivers. John Noonan is looking for a good performance in the 95 Championship, is always in there doing his bit for the sponsor.
Moving into stage now, you'll notice that the hatch on the top of the funny car locked down before going into stage. Stephen Reid, very experienced family in top alcohol racing.
Well, unlike top fuel dragsters which lead the start line from idle, these guys bring the revs up around about 4.5, 5,000 RPM. Bump them into stage, you'll see them edge in. There'll be one flash of the ambers and then they come out hard. Looks as though there's a problem though.
John Noonan appears to have overstaged. He has, and Stephen Reid goes on a solo. John Noonan overstaged in red light. An automatic win to Stephen Reid, who goes through to the top end.
Yes, problems there for John Noonan. It looks as though the car wouldn't stage properly. Let's have a look at it on the replay from the top end of the racetrack. Just check out how fast this funny car comes over the hill. Big, big performance from him. Stephen Reid picks up the win. Another 6.20, 6.20 at 224 mile an hour. A good speed, but he'll be definitely looking to improve on that ET.
New South Wales competitor Vic Baker now in the Corvette funny car, qualified and down in number 7 position with a 6.37, and he's up with against Jeff the Burner Burnett, who's up in number 2 with a 6.12.
Jeff Burnett in the late model Pontiac Formula bodied funny car, beautifully turned out machine. Jeff may be remembered for his days when he drove an altered in top alcohol, and currently holds the world's quickest ET for an alcohol altered in the world.
Going into stage now, off the start line, a good lead by Baker, but Burnett just too much horsepower. Baker very loose in the middle of the track, an easy win to Jeff Burnett.
Let's have a look at it on the replay now. Watch Baker in the left lane right of screen. The car starts to move around, shuts it off. Burnett comes over the horizon to pick up the win. 6.11, 227 miles an hour.
Burnett certainly drove the car like it was on rails. A very good run from him there. Another funny car now, Steve Harker in the McGee-powered Dodge Daytona.
Yes, Steve Harker is running the unusual quad-cam McGee engine on board the funny car. He's up against the West Australian fireman, Alan Dobson, the first alcohol car in Australia to run a 5-second pass. Ran it at this racetrack, a 5.90 as a matter of fact.
Both engines up in the high in the rev range. Steve Harker's the last one to go in. Off the start line now, good lead by Harker, but look at the power of the Oldsmobile. The Castrol Oldsmobile will take an easy win and move into the semi-finals.
On the replay, both cars looking very, very smooth. It was just the pure horsepower from the Castrol machine that carried him through. Heads a little bit towards the centre line as it goes across the finishing line, and a 6.10 for the win to Alan Dobson. That's the first round of Top Alcohol Eliminator. We now move into the semi-finals. Stephen Reid on screen.
Stephen Reid up against the number 1 qualifier, Gary Phillips.
These two competitors have met side by side in blown alcohol racing on many an occasion. Both of them extremely experienced. Look at this shot from behind the funny car as the revs build. Launches off the start line hard, but the funny car is out of shape. Gary Phillips is out in front and he's going to carry the Dragster through for the win. On the replay now, awesome amount of G-force off the start line from these vehicles, but Gary Phillips picks up the win, runs the car through with a 6.12, 228 mile an hour. That's a big speed from a dragster, Kevin.
Certainly is. Very, very good performance there from Phillips. He's got that little combination working very well. The semi-final now, Jeff Burnett up against Alan Dobson.
Battle of the funny cars now. We have heard a lot of talk about dragsters having an advantage over the funny cars. However, in the semi-finals, we've got 3 funny cars and 1 dragster. Alan Dobson, a huge burnout from the man. The crowd go wild here at Willowbank Raceway. What a big crowd it is as well.
That's the most unusual thing for a burnout, but Dobson always did love them.
Alan Dobson, a nice strong burnout, getting plenty of heat in those big rear Goodyear tyres. The burnout not only looks great, a very essential part of drag racing, lays down a nice hot pair of sticky tyre marks on the start line.
Both drivers building the revs as they move into stage.
Both them into stage now. Watch for these cars as they come off the start line. A red light for Burnett, and just to make sure things are game over for him, he crosses the centre line. Alan Dobson picks up the win. That'll move him straight into the finals of Top Alcohol Eliminator as we have a look at it on the replay.
On the replay now, you see the red light comes in the right-hand lane, but Burnett is way out of shape. Dobson, in the meantime, moving straight through for an easy win with a 6.11 at 219 miles per hour to move into the final.
Well, a 6.11 from Dobson and a 6.1 from Gary Phillips is going to mean we're going to see an incredible final between these two competitors. Dobson back on screen. We saw a huge burnout in the semis and another one in the final. Oh, the crowd absolutely getting a great show here tonight.
There's no doubt about it. The fans really put their hands together when they see such a huge burnout. And as you can see, a big crowd here at Willowbank Raceway to watch this enthralling Top Alcohol race.
Gary Phillips really setting the Top Alcohol field on fire with this Whipple supercharged Top Alcohol dragster. Has plenty of horsepower and is doing some big things, as is the Castrol team. A red light to Dobson. Phillips picks up the win. Alan Dobson comes out hard, runs along the wall, but a red light.
On the replay now, you see off the start line, red light to Dobson. He immediately goes to the concrete wall and has to lift.
5 thousandths of a second was the red light. Very unfortunate for the Castrol team. Gary Phillips picks up the win and it puts him in the #1 position with low ETM top speed on the points table. Alan Dobson in second, right the way down to Stan Tyndall. Top bike eliminator now, and Pommy Pete Allen on top with a 7.03.
The first round of the Australian Top Bike Championship sees a 6-bike field, with Pommy Pete Allen leading the qualify on the Pennzoil Party Time Kawasaki.
Yes, a strong performance from Peter Allen, 7.03 seconds. His nearest rival, Jeff Smith, is nearly a second behind with a 7.90. But as we know with nitro-burning machines, things are very temperamental. Anything can happen, and that's what Craig Bonwick is hoping for.
Bonwick normally competes in pushrod competition motorcycle on this Harley Davidson. Seem to be having a little bit of trouble neutralising the motorcycle so they can push it back after the burnout. Of course, a good look at the engine. You see the drive belt on the side. This is based on a Harley Davidson engine, but there's certainly not a lot of original Harley parts in that engine.
Yes, 114 cubic inches of Harley Davidson up against 1,327 cc's of Kawasaki for Peter Allen. Plenty of horsepower being produced from these motorcycles. Obviously, to get the car down into the low 7, even the 6-second zone, it's producing some big numbers.
Pommy Pete Allen, one of the original drag racers of Australia, came out from England with a twin-engine Triumph, and here he is some 30 years later, still riding Top Fuel motorcycles.
Definitely one of the more experienced and one of the greatest riders in Top Fuel bike ever. Both of them edging into stage now. Watch for the sheer acceleration of these bikes off the starting line. Both of them get away cleanly, but it's the Pennzoil party machine that just charges on ahead, using the body fairly well to keep the bike straight, and picks up the win, a 7.09 at 182 miles an hour. A strong pass early for them in Top Bike Eliminator.
The next pairing brings Jeff Smith on Australia's quickest and fastest Harley Davidson up against fellow Queenslander Gavin Spann on a Kawasaki.
Spann has made the transition from pro stock bike into Top Fuel bike. He believes that he can do quite well in the class and has put a nitrous oxide kit on the bike with plans to extend the chassis.
Big strong burnout there from Jeff Smith on the Harley Davidson. Well, this motorcycle contains all the original configuration of the Harley engine. It's completely rebuilt, revamped, and is a very high-tech piece of machinery.
Producing big horsepower. You can see Spann on screen now. It is a pro stock motorcycle chassis, but as I said before, he's put a, I believe, 6-stage nitrous oxide kit on the bike to pump up the horsepower a little bit, and so far it has worked quite well for him.
Gavin Spann, a new addition to Top Bike, but he's up against one of the experienced campaigners, and of course Jeff Smith. A lot of horsepower, consistent runner, and very capable of running good 7-second times.
I think what Spann will be hoping for here is that the Harley Davidson and Smith strike some problems. Spann will be going for the whole shot off the start line. He's used to quick, sharp reaction times in pro stock bike.
Moving into stage now, you'll notice a difference configuration between the two motorcycles. Spann's a pro stock sit-up style, and the Harley, of course, a real lay-down competition drag racing motorcycle.
Yes, pro stock bike based on the original motorcycles. Obviously the Harley Davidson looking very much unlike the original Harley. Both of them going into stage now. Can Spann pull the upset of the race meeting? We'll have to wait and see. Both of the bikes are into stage now, waiting on the start. Bill Creeley flicks the switch. Spann brings it up on the RPM, and it's a big hole shot to Smith, a 409. That was not expected at all. The Harley Davidson charges on for a very convincing win.
An 810, that was a very long time staging for Gavin Spann. I don't think Smith will be happy about that, but he drilled him with a 409 light and went through for the win.
Steve Smith now on screen, coming out in the same lane, the Wins Performance Products lane here at Eastern Creek Raceway. Also on a Harley Davidson, he will face Bruce Barnett. Barnett all the way from Western Australia, also on the Harley.
Yes, the Harley Davidsons and Top Bike have really advanced. Bruce Barnett, relatively new combination, but have put down some good numbers. Most of the motorcycle equipment for these is sourced from the USA with home-built frames.
Bruce Barnett has definitely got the horsepower, has run some low 7-second performances with this motorcycle. The understanding I have of this weekend is that they have had some clutch problems with the motorcycle and have been unable to get the power to the racetrack, and hence their ETs have been down a little bit. He qualified in the number 4 position with an 8:37, but really wants to knock around a second off that.
Into stage now, Tree's on its way. A good lead by both motorcycles, but the Smith bike having problems, out of shape there. Bruce Barnett's going to drive through for the win. A catch-up, but it's not going to happen. The West Australian takes the win with an 8:22 at only 141 miles per hour.
So Bruce Barnett finding some of the performances he was looking for from the motorcycle. Still looking to improve it as he moves into the semi-finals now.
Queenslander Jeff Smith will take on Bruce Barnett. This is an all-Harley semi-final, the first of the pairings. You'll notice now that they're wiping the tyre on the motorcycle, getting all the water that's in the burnout pad so that when the motorcyclist tries to straighten the bike up, the front tyre doesn't slip.
Big, strong burnout from these Harley Davidsons. Definitely putting on a good show for a one-wheeled burnout. Jeff Smith, a strong performance from him in the first round, as was Bruce Barnett's, but both of these guys have really got to step up their performances. Tough one to pick. Really am not sure how these two Harley Davidsons are going to go.
Both machines are fuel-injected, nitro-powered Harley Davidsons. Generally, Jeff Smith's able to run in the 7-second zone, but to date he hasn't been able to put that performance together.
Both bikes moving into stage now. Milwaukee Muscle side by side at Eastern Creek Raceway. Who will it be, the Queenslander or the West Australian? Both get away cleanly and side by side top bike action. Barnett's really loose, runs it down the centre line, and it's going to be Smith to pick up the win. Bruce Barnett with the power, but just too much out of shape. Jeff Smith a 774.
The second semi-final should have been a solo from Pommy Pete Allen, but in a big upset they were unable to repair the Kawasaki, so that means that Jeff Smith is an automatic win. He normally would run in a solo, but Bruce Barnett's brought his Harley back out again for a match race.
Well, Bruce Barnett, let's see if he can make amends. He got very loose in the semi-final against Jeff Smith, and I'm pretty sure this time he knows the bike's got the power. He just wants to keep it straight and get it around him.
Yes, Bruce Barnett using this for some very good practice. They seem to have a problem there. I think they're backing up to realign the motorcycle. Barnett obviously keeping his hands on the handlebars and doing a fairly good job of indicating with his head. Jeff Smith, on the other hand, He's already won this race. This is an academic pairing going down the racetrack.
Both bikes about to move into stage. Smith, as Kevin said, is the winner of Top Bike Eliminator for the first round here at Eastern Creek Raceway. But who will win this matchup? Both of the bikes into stage. Watch for the flash of the three ambers. It's a pro start. One flash there, gone. Barnett's out this time. Smith alongside him. I think Barnett's got the legs. Yes, he does. Smith with a problem. And Bruce Barnett charges through for the win. Jeff Smith picks up the championship with a 12.71, but Barnett 7.65 at 179 mile an hour still was a great run from him. So after the first round here at Eastern Creek Raceway, Jeff Smith leads the championship on 1,000 points. Peter Allen only 200 behind on 800.
Moving now to round 3 of the Australian Top Alcohol Championships at Calder Park Raceway. Number 1 qualifier Gary Phillips with a sensational 5.90.
Steve Reed, homie Steve Reed, he's affectionately known as the Red Wing Shoes car from England, running up against Jeff Burnett. Burnett won the Nationals in 1973 and 74 in funny cars.
Back they come, this massive crowd, blue skies, Calder Park, first time in 8 years. Isn't it good to be back? Bobby Jane, congratulations on the complex. It certainly has done us proud in the sport at the moment. It is a showcase today.
Both drivers creeping towards the staging beams.
Set for a race, so it's Reed and Burnett. Facing off now, a little bit of a creep. Coming up the stage, racing now, both getting away well. Oh, look at Burnett, he gets a little sideways. Can he come back? No, he can't. Oh, but what a run. They both got out of shape and they just blistered the track.
That was a fantastic race, Darryl. Steve Reed won with a 6.11, but look here on the replay. You see on the green Burnett's short wheelbase funny car is bouncing around as they're changing gears. The dragster a little bit loose, but that's where it's lost.
Is it my imagination or has that side of the track been doing that today? I've seen a lot of sideways motoring on that side of the racetrack.
Not really, Darryl. The track is fairly even, but the short wheel-based funny cars, like Steve Harker's on the left of the screen now, they are affected with any little bit of bump. John Noonan in the dragster has a little bit more flex in the car.
Well, we talk about dancing around there, tap dancing in that lane today. Oh boy, you're really seeing some action here, and this should be another really good matchup. We've got Steve Harker from Greenbank in Queensland, John Noonan also from Queensland, two banana benders at it. Everyone holding their breath now. Away they go. Nice clean start, both cars. Oh, look at this again. Oh, they've really got the rock and roll happening here, let me tell you. But this time got over the bumps and came home with a big finish. Oh, and still getting out of shape.
What an incredible run. Like the previous one, Steve Harker took the win at 6.18. Again on the replay, both cars get out of shape. Look at Harker's car, they're coming close to the centre line.
Unbelievable here out of the gate, and they really had a good look at each other, and here's the finish coming up. Oh, and another fast one. We talk about fast cars, they keep coming out. Alan Dobson, he'll take on Stan Tyndall. Western Australia and a boy from Wyong Creek, my neck of the woods on the central coast of New South Wales. Stanley Tyndall, I'm on your side.
Alan Dobson, Australia's fastest fireman. Stan Tyndall, Darryl, was a former world drag racing boat champion. He came out of the boat, he thought terra firma was a better place to be.
Hey, they breed him strong at Wyong. That's where Mark Scaife, that's his home territory. Pretty quick boys up there, I'll tell you.
They certainly are. Stan Tyndall, Australia's fastest grandfather as well.
Okay, set Dobson and Tyndall. Tyndall, a little move into the stage there. Here they go. Getting set, wait for the lights, away they go. And a good even start to Dobson. Dobson at the moment gets the run and Dobson powers his way over. And the boy from Wyong, I call him a boy with a lot of affection, Stan Tyndall's got to run second.
A 6.10 for Alan Dobson, a great run. Tyndall turned the tyres a little bit off the line. You see the tyre smoke on Tyndall's dragster. Look at Dobbo wrestle that car down the track. That was a great run from both drivers.
Terrific stuff here at Calder Park. We're seeing some fantastic runs here today, no doubt about it. Gary Phillips now, he comes up, he'll match up against Vic Baker. Again, a Brisbane driver up against a New South Wales driver. State of origin stuff here at Calder.
Now again we see the funny cars and the dragsters. Top alcohol, unlike the nitro classes, these cars actually have different engine sizes. The dragster, because it's lighter, a bit more nimble, has a smaller engine. That's to equalise the performance. It's going to be close.
Vic Baker, of course, in the Corvette. Nicely turned out car. Back he comes, the crew sets him up. We look at Gary Phillips, Hillcrest in Brisbane. Rev start to build. Both set and racing now. Back they come. Oh, the Corvette! Oh, the Corvette's come out at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'll tell you, no way in the world, because Gary Phillips, wow, halfway down the track, he planted it and came home in a big rush.
On the replay, look at both the drivers left fairly evenly. Baker appeared on the way to a big upset, and then Phillips, out of shape, got back into it. Baker troubles.
What about the save, though, from Phillips? Got sideways and won.
Still at the Nationals, and it's top bike eliminator now with Phil Howard on top with a 7.08. 8 bikes assembled for a top field.
Now we're talking turkey here today. The big bikes come out, and I tell you what, how brave are these fellas? Bruce Barnett takes on Gavin Spann.
Gavin Spann aboard the bike, which used to run in Pro Stock bike, now running nitrous oxide.
Suzuki takes on the Harley. The Harley looks like it's got the legs. Suzuki comes back now with a big rush. Can the Harley hang on? I'm not sure about that. Oh, he only just got it, I'll tell you now. The Western Australian just got him.
A fantastic run, all won and lost on the start line, Darryl, because Barnett has actually gone slower than Spann.
Beautifully out of the box, but didn't the Suzuki come home? There it is. Look at that. Nothing in that at all. Okay, Peter Allen out against Steve Smith. The Victorian taking on the Brisbane rider. Again, a Harley up against a Kawasaki. Oh, I like the pit crew.
The pit crew is fantastic. Steve Smith, a great job. This blown Harley has a supercharger on it. At one stage was the fastest Harley in the world. Tommy Peter Allen, 6-time Nationals winner. He's a veteran of the sport and a legend.
Alrighty, the legend, away they go. Oh, what about the start? You talk about being scared on these things. Did you see that? Oh, he hung on to it, gathered it up, and at least got to the end. I tell you what, I bet his hair's the same colour as mine.
It really would have been a white knuckle ride. Have a look at Smith on the left of the screen, side to side, the bike bucking around. But Pommy Pete, look at him on the right-hand side, all the way through the finish line. A great run, and he ran 314 kilometres per hour.
Unbelievable stuff. Mark Getty now. He comes out on a Harley, and Scott Commons also on a Harley. Para Hills from South Australia taking on the Victorian.
Now, these guys are actually teammates from the Excessive Force team in South Australia. There's Commons on screen at the moment. Beautiful Harley Davidson. Mark Getty was at one stage Australia's quickest.
Gotta say too that this team really, they spend a lot of money in motorcycles. They're involved with the Roaring Sporty series, and they put a 2-bike series in that too, so congratulations, because it's a big effort to run so many bikes. All set up now, away they go. Better start this time. Oh, but no contest. Both Harleys. Now he might come back, but no sir. Mark Getty from South Australia just blew him away. What a ride.
A fantastic ride. In fact, Getty went 7.26 seconds for the quarter mile. 297 kilometres per hour. That's brilliant.
No doubt about that. It was brilliant. Phil Howard now from South Australia aboard a Howard. Kerry Ellis from Queensland on a Kawasaki.
Howard, another one of the riders of the Excessive Force team. Here's Ellis. This is a turbocharged machine, a little bit different. Howard took his first ride in this bike 2 days ago.
So Howard, she should be pretty brave. First ride, and here you are, Calder, against some of the best competition in Australia, if not the best. Away they go now. Oh, look at Howard. He's only just learned to ride it. What's he going to be like when he gets used to it?
Brilliant. A 6.81 for the quarter mile. That is sensational.
The bikes are good. And Howard, oh, he won it by a street.
magnificent with 55,000 people looking on Darrell. And it's the semi-finals of top alcohol as we see Gary Phillips, the top qualifier. He's going to run up against Steve Harker in the funny car.
Harker comes out there, he lights him up there. I always like this matchup, you know, the dragster taking on the funny car. I mean, to a lot of people at home, they probably don't understand how this happens.
Well, it all gets down to weight brakes and engine sizes. The dragster is a lighter car, therefore it uses a smaller engine. Equalises the performance against the funny car with the bigger engine. The funny car's heavier. When they get down to the bottom end, they should be side by side.
Doesn't always happen that way. Who do you like this time round?
Well, Steve Harker's doing good things with this McGee-powered funny car, but I'm going for Phillips. We saw the team cars just before, but Gary Phillips works full-time for Harker.
Okay, plenty of family matchups here, team matchups anyway. It's the dragster taking on the funny car. Away they go, they both get away nicely. Funny car gets a bit out of shape now, comes back, but it's the dragster that gets it. Gary Phillips takes the money, but I tell you what, that was a great drive from Steve Harker. He got out of shape, backed it off, and planted it again.
That was a great race between the two. Let's look at the replay. Look at Gary Phillips's dragster, though, in the left lane. It left the line, little bit out of shape. Around quarter track, sparks start appearing out the back of the car. Harker's still bouncing. Not quite sure what happened. Gary Phillips, a 6.09 for the win.
Oh, dodgy run, let me tell you. This time, Steve Reed, Alan Dobson, you see him coming out now in the Oldsmobile. He'll take on Steve Reed in the dragster. Beautifully prepared car, this one. And I've got to say to Castrol, what an effort they put into motor racing. What an effort he puts into a burnout. Have a look at the smoke coming off that in the crowd come up. But Castrol, you know, they pour money into all forms of motorsport, every division. Congratulations, big effort.
It is a huge effort. Alan Dobson hates burning oil in the car. He loves burning rubber. A great burnout from the Castrol Olds car. Steve Reed, of course, won the title back in '92. Bearing in mind the reigning champion of this event, Aussie Steve Reed, failed to qualify. That's why we haven't seen him today.
Confused at home, I am. Tommy Steve Reed, Aussie Steve Reed. Out they come, Dobson. Oh dear. So again, we've got this terrific matchup with the Oldsmobile funny car taking on the dragster.
Again, the performances are equalised by the rules. Dobson making sure plenty of temperature.
All set. Dobson's pretty hard to beat. Can he do it at Calder? Away they go. Nice even start again. Oh, look at Dobson. But I think he's going to get run down. Never mind thinking about it. He's been run down big time there. Oh, Steve Reed just came from behind and said, see you later, son.
A good win for Aussie, Pommy Steve Reed. Nice, clean, straight down the quarter mile. A 6.07 at 365 kilometres per hour. This is going to be a great race. Bruce Barnett, a little bit up against it here because the Kawasaki's have more power, but this guy's run very, very quick.
Lights it up now. I reckon these fellas are fantastic. How brave are they to sit on these machines at the speed they pull? Phil Howard, he's been in sensational touch.
Magnificent job in the first round, ran 6.81. The first ever time he got on the bike, he ran 6.67 for a licence run. Let's see if he can get into the 6-second zone here.
Well, we said when he got used to it, he'd be really quick. And he's getting used to it more and more. He loves this motorcycle. Phil Howard aboard the Howard. That's what you're looking at there against Bruce Barnett from Bayswater, West Australia. Howard from South Australia. The Harley takes on the Howard. Here we go. Visors down. Should be a fantastic matchup, this one. Howard and Barnett. Howard in the red and white colours, nearest to camera. And away they go. What about the speed off the box? And look at this side by side. The Harley's just in front of the moment. He might get him. Oh, look at Howard come home. What about Howard coming home? Oh, he trailed halfway down, maybe 3/4 of the way down the track and finally got the money. What a run.
It was a fantastic run, but Howard nearly lost it on the start. Look at the replay, the left lane. Howard on the Kawasaki leaves the line. Look at the bike get out of shape. He's lucky to be on it.
Well, I said how brave they are. And see the language from the body. They really do have to ride these things.
Pulling the bikes back with torque, the sparks as the pipes and feet hit the ground with Barnett. That was a great race from both those guys.
Unbelievable stuff, and have a look at Howard coming home. He's like a speedway rider. He just throws his body over the top and keeps the rest wide open. Well, Peter Allen, Mark Getty, they've certainly got something to make up here. The Victorian takes on the South Australian. Again, a Kawasaki taking on a Harley.
Tommy Peter Allen on screen at the moment, the Pennzoil Party Time motorcycle, and it's a party time for this guy with 700 horsepower right between the legs.
Well, you just saw it working. Out come the pit crew again. They've been pretty popular. Wow. Mark Getty.
The Harley Davidson, he's run extremely well, ran 7.26 in the first round. That's going to be ultra competitive right here. We might see the Harley get up this time and knock the Kawasaki off.
Allen and Getty, Kawasaki against the Harley. There's the Harley, the Kawasaki is the yellow bike. Watch them light it up. I just don't know how they do it. I mean, I've ridden a motorcycle all my life, but I tell you what, it would be a buzz down here.
Huge crowd looking on here at Calder Park Raceway. 55,000 people, and the atmosphere is fantastic.
Well, it's been terrific. I mean, the racing right throughout the day and into the night has just been sensational. And the bikes, well, they have been incredible. Here we go. Peter Allen, Mark Getty, Kawasaki taking on the Harley nearest to camera. Away they go. Away they get away easy. Oh, no. Look at the Kawasaki. Away he goes. The Peter hanging out the back, and he just says, oh, bye-bye. The Japper got the money.
A fantastic run for Peter Allen, a 7.01. He's nearly broken into the sixes. Look at the replay again. Big puff of smoke as they left the line. The Kawasaki looks great. Look at the Harley getting out of shape.
Well, you talk about riding them. I mean, there he had to get it back into shape. Now he gets going, but of course, too late because Allen has just gone. The horse has bolted. What a good matchup. Two dragsters.
All the funny cars have gone in top alcohol. It's left to these two. Gary Phillips, 2 times Australian champion, hasn't won top alcohol in the Nationals yet. Homie Steve Reed, the Red Wing Shoes car. Got to tell you, Daryl, the Nationals in top alcohol has only ever been won by Steve Reed. Either Aussie Steve or Pommy Steve Reed. Will the tradition continue?
Okay, it's like State of Origin here. The Blues taking on the Maroons. Queensland taking on New South Wales. Steve Reed from New South Wales. Gary Phillips, of course, from Queensland. Brisbane boy.
Phillips top qualified, ran Australia's quickest ever top alcohol run, 5.901 seconds. Re-qualified on his last attempt, last-ditch effort. Will it be a fairy tale ending here for him?
We'll soon see as they back him up. Top alcohol finalist. Crowd has been mesmerised with the racing that we've seen here today and right into the evening. Over the weekend, it has just been one of the great drag meetings in Australia. And Victoria, congratulations, 55,000 out, in fact over 80,000 over the weekend. All set now for the top alcohol final. Away they go. Oh, again, gets out of shape. The fire goes out and Steve Reed just powers down the line.
Despite the loss at the Nationals, Queenslander Gary Phillips retains his lead with 3,300 points.
Have a look at him, smoke it up. Oh, and gets a little bit sideways as he kicks it.
Tommy Peter Allen, the Pennzoil Party Time Machine. They want to party tonight. He wants his first ever 6-second elapsed time. You wouldn't believe, Howard's nearly gone off on the burnout, but he in fact has run sixes all night.
Howard has been unbelievable as we watch Allen back it up with the girls. It's very important they back him up on that rubber. That's the most important thing.
Got to get into the nice hot tracks of Goodyear rubber.
Last race of the night. Top bike. Phil Howard, Peter Allen. Howard and the red and white machine has just been unbelievable. Remember, he's only just stepped on this bike and he's been the man to chase all day. Allen on the Kawasaki, the yellow bike, Pennzoil bike. That's him there. And as I said, they don't come too much braver than these fellows. All right, set here, should be a beauty. Can Howard pull it off from South Australia over Allen from Victoria?
Howard running the bike that Pommy Peter Allen used to run himself.
Yeah, must be hard for him. Away they go. Good even start. Allen's behind. He's trailing. Can he come back? Oh, look at him. Look at the body language as he gets on the bike there. He had to wrestle the machine. Now he comes over into the lane with Allen. Oh, he's okay though. He should be able to pull it up. What am I saying? He's okay. You talk about body language. Have a look at that. And the bike says, thanks very much. I've won the race and I'm ready to go again.
Oh, sensational. Watch it from the start line again. Both of the riders left together. It's a side-by-side 6-second run. We've seen history. Phil Howard, a 6.73. Look at the attitude on those bikes. A 6.95 for the Pom, but that's where it didn't finish.
No. Well, we've seen some history tonight. Howard, of course, with that run, that win, has taken him into the 200-mile-an-hour run. Now look at him here as he comes across. You think he's going to pull it up. And remember, he's coming down from 200 mile an hour on the old scale. Just amazing. Now the bike gets totally sideways. It starts to scrape itself to death. He gets out of it. The bike decides it's going to continue on and have a little victory roll. And that's what it's done there.
So after an exciting second round of the Top Bike Championship, Peter Allen leads on 1,600 points, closely followed by Phil Howard, right the way through to Gavin Spann. We now move to Top Alcohol Eliminator at Willowbank Raceway in Queensland. Stephen Reid, the number one qualifier with a 6.02.
First pairing in round 4 of the Australian Top Alcohol Championships. Queenslander Steve Harker up against Jeff the Burner Burnett.
Big strong burnout from Harker, really getting the tyres nice and warm. Harker competing at this race meeting with a KB. We were getting used to him running the McGee quad cam and has elected to go back to the good old pushrod engine.
A cool, clear night here at Willowbank Raceway. A great crowd in attendance, 20 degrees, so we should be looking for some performances on the racetrack.
Yes, the surface here at Willowbank is always fantastic. Plenty of traction available for these 2,500 horsepower alcohol burning funny cars. They always put on a great show, and there's plenty of show on board here tonight.
Jeff Burnett qualified in number 4 position with a 6.14. Steve Harker in number 5 with a 6.17. Interestingly, Harker was some 10 mile an hour faster over the top end than Burnett's quicker time.
Burnett extremely competitive with his PSI supercharged funny car. Top alcohol always very, very tight, and the action here tonight just proves that.
Sensational view looking down the track in the sunset as the cars back up from the burnout. Funny cars need a long smoky burnout to get those tyres really sticky. You'll notice the hatches up on the bodies. That's allowed to allow the smoke out of the cabin after the burnout.
Large amount of experience on both sides of the racetrack. Jeff Burnett has been competing for many years in a number of classes and has done very well in all of them.
Some good shots of the funny cars here, give you some idea of the layout of the cars. You notice the driver sitting directly behind the engine. He's got the transmission between his legs.
These cars run a 3-speed manually shifted Lenco transmission, which is shoved in behind a 2,500 horsepower alcohol burning engine.
Moving into stage now, the cars will come up in rev range. As opposed to a top fuel car that leaves from idle, these cars leave at 5,000 revs. So the cars will pull into pre-stage, the drivers will then raise the rev limit to about 5,000 revs and then go into full stage.
The revs start to climb up now. You can see the extra fuel pouring from the head as they bump them in. The starter hits the switch. One flash there. God, Harker's out. What a hole shot, but here comes Burnett. The horsepower of the Pontiac Formula all the way down for a very convincing win. 6.09, 206 mile an hour, 6.09 and a low speed, shut it off early. That car's got a 5-second pass in it.
Yes, he certainly did, but a great hole shot from Harker. He ran a 4.71 to a 6.3. Under some conditions, that would be the race over, but unfortunately had a mechanical problem.
Gary Phillips now in the Aussie Bananas Rocket Industries Top Alcohol Dragster, currently leading, and by quite a healthy amount, might I add. The Australian Top Alcohol Championship for 95 is a very determined man. He's a full-time professional drag racer and certainly wants to win the championship.
Phillips qualified with a 6.04 in number 3 position. New South Welshman Stan Tyndall in number 6 position with a 6.23.
Stan Tyndall, a former drag boat competitor, has decided to make the switch over to the tarmac, decides that it's a fair bit safer than the water.
As Gary Phillips reverses at the start line, you'll notice the Willowbank crew checking out the racetrack, making sure there's no fluid on it after the burnout. You also note how small the wing is on a top alcohol car compared with a top fuel one that's very big. And of course, looking at them, you see the supercharger on top driven by the rubber belt.
Yes, the top alcohol dragsters don't require as much downforce as the top fuel cars. Their speeds are obviously a little bit more reduced, around 230 to 240 mile an hour from these cars, as opposed to 290 and upwards. Both cars moving into stage now, Dragster versus Dragster. We just saw a great pairing earlier on. Now the two Dragsters come into stage. The Winfield Pro Series, a fantastic series run around the countries, producing some great drag racing.
Moving into stage now, top alcohol takes a long time to stage because, as we've said, they've got to build those revs up. Stan Tyndall's in, just waiting for Gary Phillips.
Both cars into pre-stage. Tyndall bumps the car in. The revs are built right up. Phillips is in. Away they come. It's a whole shot for Tyndall. The car running close to that centerline wall. Very, very close. Will have to be the call from the ANDRA officials, and they've called it for Gary Phillips. He gets the win, a 6.77, and that's the second time this season that Stan Tyndall has crossed the centre line.
Yes, Tyndall there had wasted a good run. He also ran a 4.22 whole shot leave off the start line. Next pairing is Steve Reed in the funny car, and Steve Reed is up against John Noonan in the Top Gun Dragster.
Stephen Reed, the 1994 Australian top alcohol champion in the freshly painted Newlon funny car, up against John Noonan. Noonan, a very wild competitor, gets this car nice and sideways on a number of occasions, but certainly always is in there competing for his sponsor Top Gun high energy ignition leads.
Steve Reed, number one qualifier with a 6.02. That's the first time Funny Car's been a number one qualifier so far this season. John Noonan, on the other hand, got into the field in number 8 with a 6.50 at only 211 miles per hour.
A fantastic crowd here at Willowbank Raceway, filling the grandstands here as the sun begins to set. This is the first round of Top Alcohol Eliminator. 8 cars competing here this weekend.
As the cars make their way back to the start line, good low-down shots there from our cameras. You can see the size of a Top Alcohol engine. Steve Reed back to the start line. You notice the condensation on the injector hat. It's very cool. It's 20 degrees when we went into this first round, and with the amount of air being sucked into the engine, it's starting to freeze up the injectors.
Once again, a great battle between Funny Car and Dragster. It's good to see the two different forms of race cars competing against each other in Top Alcohol.
You can see the comparison there between the two types of cars, a long overhang on the Funny Car and the Dragster, very short wings on it. Moving into stage as the engines build.
Yes, John Noonan bumps the Top Gun high energy ignition leads car in. Reed not far behind, away they come, and it looks like Reed a long way out in front, the Funny Car with the horsepower. Stephen Reed charges through to pick up the win, 6.01, 233 mile an hour. A lot of sparks off the front of Noonan's car, but Reed picks up the win.
Final pairing in this first round, West Australian Alan Dobson in the Castrol Oldsmobile Achiever, and he's up against Vic Baker in the Pommy Steve Reed's Top Alcohol car.
Yes, Stephen Reed now driving the Top Fuel Dragster for Sano Rapisada has allowed Vic Baker to step in and do the driving duty in his car. The Red Wing Shoes, a very competitive dragster, has gone to a runner-up position in the United States of America at the Winter Nationals in Pomona.
Alan Dobson qualified number 2 position with a 6.03 in the Castrol Funny Car. Vic Baker in the number 7 position with a 6.46. Baker normally runs a Funny Car, and this is her first drive in a dragster.
Yes, doing a good job he is as well, even to qualify into the field. Vic Baker, the New South Welshman, we're normally used to seeing him in the Corvette, the orange Vic Baker power steering Corvette. We've seen a lot of Alan Dobson, a great performance from this team. They've come all the way from Western Australia, competed every round of the Top Alcohol Championships, and do so well.
Back to the start line now. Once again, you'll notice the condensation on the injector hat. Very cold air here. Vic Baker concentrating. He's got to be used to this car. It's a different configuration. The driving style in a Funny Car is somewhat different to the Dragster. So right now, he'll be putting every bit of concentration on getting this car down the start line.
Yes, there certainly will be plenty of interest from Stephen Reed as well, who happens to be wandering around behind the start line watching quite closely. Let's see how he goes. Dobson brings the Castrol Funny Car into stage. The Red Wings Dragster won't be too far behind him.
What both drivers will do here is they'll bring up the pre-stage light, then they'll lift the revs up to 4,000 or 5,000, inch the cars into pre-stage, and the starter will hit the button.
Dobbo goes in first. We wait on Baker. The revs are built up. One flash, they're gone, and it's a red light for Alan Dobson. Throws it away. The Castrol car had all the performance in the world, but a 6:32 to Vic Baker will be the victory.
And listen to the time for Alan Dobson, a losing 5:96. Absolutely wasted a great time on a red light.
Very disappointing for the Castrol team. Semi-final time now of Top Alcohol Eliminator, and it's Gary Phillips from Queensland. He will do battle against Vic Baker. Vic Baker picking up a nice easy win in the first round.
Burnout from Baker there, followed by Phillips. As we said, this is the first competition for Baker in a dragster. So far, he's been able to get through into the semi-finals. Will he be able to make it to the finals?
You can see the difference between the engines on these cars. The Red Wings Shoes Dragster runs a normal Roots-type supercharger on top of the engine, as compared to Gary Phillips, who has an enormous Whipple screw-type supercharger on the top of the car. That's the difference in the size.
Phillips backs to the start line now. The crew chief, Debbie, his wife, will make sure that the car goes directly back into the burnout makes. Have a look at the size of that supercharger on that engine. It's a very big, literally it's an air pump. It's forcing air and fuel into the engine to produce as much horsepower as possible.
Gary Phillips also runs a fairly large wing on the back of this dragster. He wants to make sure that those tyres are planted at over 230 miles an hour. Vic Baker doing a fantastic job for NZ and Red Wings in his drive in the dragster. It is a different driving style moving from the dragsters, from the funny cars to the dragster, and Vic Baker appears to be picking it up well.
You'll notice as each of the cars come back to the start line, generally the crew will have a look around the car. They'll make sure that there's no leaks. They just generally check the car out, then signal to the driver it's time to move into pre-stage.
Travel Air Tours and Harker Transport's also big supporters of Gary Phillips and his racing. He is a professional drag racer, and professional is exactly how Gary Phillips takes to Top Alcohol. Both of the cars going into stage now.
There's been a history of staging duels between Baker and Phillips. Will that happen again? Phillips seems to be in. Baker's playing around the start line.
Who's holding who out? We'll have to wait and see. The starter is ready. He's set him. Phillips gets the green light. Vic Baker comes up with the red light. I'm not sure whether he wasn't in stage. He was just purely taking too much time. But Gary Phillips, a 6:05 for the win, 230 miles an hour to move into the finals. Who will he meet? Jeff Burnett or Stephen Reed?
Jeff Burnett has certainly been on performances, ran a 6.0 in the first round. He's got this funny car really well tuned and performing extremely well.
Well, a 6.09 from Burnett was impressive, but a 6.01 from Reed was even quicker. Reed definitely has also got the car set up well. Burnett is backing up. We're yet to see Reed. Burnett's completed his burnout. It is in the process of reversing. We can still see the body up in the background of Stephen Reed. Does he have a problem? We will only have to wait and see. Plenty of show on board for the spectators in the meantime.
Well, this will be a real upset if Stephen Reed's unable to make the start line. He was a number one qualifier with a 6.02, but at this point in time, he still hasn't appeared on the start line. Jeff Burnett may just get a freebie into the finals.
Well, where is Reed? We don't see him. I think it's going to be a solo pass. A lucky break for Burnett. That's very, very unfortunate for the 1994 Australian Top Alcohol champion. He really wanted to get some more points on the board at this event. Burnett looks as though he's definitely getting the solo pass as he moves into stage.
You see the crewman there making sure that Jeff knows precisely where he is on the start line prior to moving into the pre-stage beam. Once again, he'll put the car into the pre-stage, bring the revs up and bump it into stage.
Well, will he go for a short, sharp, or a whole way down the quarter mile? I think it's going to be a complete pass. Great run from Burnett, a 6.08 quicker than the first round, 221 miles an hour. I'm not sure whether it's quick enough for lane choice, but he will meet this man, Gary Phillips. This is the final of Top Alcohol Eliminator.
Gary Phillips, the number 3 qualifier, up against Jeff Burnett, the number 4 qualifier.
Well, a 6.05 from Phillips in the semi-finals was quicker than the 6.08 from Burnett, so Phillips with the lane choice. I'm not sure whether it matters so much here at Willowbank Raceway. The traction here is absolutely exceptional, and I think it's just a matter of psychological advantage. Who prefers what lane?
You'll notice the performances are very close. The configuration of the two different cars is adjusted by the engine size and the weight. The funny car has an engine approximately 540 cubic inches. The car weighs about 2,200 pounds. In the case of the Dragster, the engine size is just over 400 cubic inches. So the cars are equal because of a weight cubic inch capacity situation.
Gary Phillips elects to use a little bit more weight for the Dragster, a larger engine. Of course, a lot of people may remember years ago Gary Phillips competing in a funny car in alcohol racing, stepped up to the Dragster, likes the big engines, and just in turn has to apply a little bit more weight to the car.
Jeff Burnett now preparing the car. You'll notice the crewman again locking down the hatch on the top, making sure the body is secured prior to going into pre-stage.
A huge Whipple supercharger on top of Phillips's car, a PSI supercharger, similar setup but different manufacturer on top of Burnett's funny car.
Great shots there of the colour and sounds of drag racing in Australia as they move into pre-stage. Burnett's in, he's got the revs up. Phillips will be the last one into stage.
Phillips bumps it in there away. Burnett with the whole shot again, but look at the speed from the Dragster side by side. But the Aussie Bananas machine, a 598. 231 mile an hour, the top end charge carried him through for the win. Well, another great performance for Gary Phillips, and that puts him ahead even further on the point score. 4,300 points is well clear of Burnett and Dobson, all the way down to Reed.
The next round of top alcohol is the Winter Nationals, and number one qualifier at a 591, current points leader Gary Phillips.
Jeff Burnett damaged an engine on his last qualifying pass, has worked all night to piece together a new power plant for this car, and boy oh boy has he worked hard through the night.
Johnny Noonan comes out as well. Johnny Noonan takes on Burnett.
John Noonan in the Top Gun Ignition Leads Dragster. This is an Australian-built Dragster, the only Australian Dragster in top alcohol. There's a number of the funny cars being built here, but John, boy oh boy, does he like the True Blue Aussie products.
Yeah, it's a great car, isn't it? You know, like it hasn't let him down too often. Noonan, Burnett backs it up there, but that's a credit to him, an Australian-built product. I mean, we are starting to bridge that gap now, aren't we, from here to the US of A.
The technology has improved a long way. John Noonan has run as quick as 6.0. He'd love to run a 5.
Noonan, Burnett down. Noonan, Top Gun. Oh, powers his way down the quarter mile and takes it from Burnett.
He's done it. 5.97, his first ever 5-second pass, 366 kilometres an hour, and that car's just behaved beautifully. John's driven it all the way. Burnett's just with no answer.
What about that? A 5.971, 366 clicks. They're not hanging around here in Willowbank. Grippy track tonight.
Aussie Steve Reed comes out on the Newlon funny car up against Stan Tyndall. Once again, we've got the funny car versus Dragster confrontation. Boy, haven't they been close.
They certainly have. And the crowd really being treated to some wonderful racing here at Willowbank. This track's in perfect condition.
The track preparation's been absolutely brilliant. That is so tacky. It is so sticky. It's like walking on the old flypaper. It's as if you had contact cement under your feet.
Who do you like?
Oh, Reed's the champion. Oh, Tyndall with a problem. Tyndall with a real problem. He's rolled through the beams. He can't get back. He's red-lighted out of it. He's gone. But look at this. Reed has just got the clutch all wrong, and he's had a let-off. He wins the race, but boy, oh boy, what a let-off for the funny car driver.
Oh, you got to feel sorry for him, haven't you?
Oh, well, have a look at that. This is where it is. Creeps through the line. You can see the wheels move there. His front wheels have moved past the start line light beam. Soon as the switch is thrown, instant red light, he's lost.
See the red light right at the bottom of those yellows. Just can't do it. It's the biggest no-no in drag racing.
That's what it's all about. You leave too soon, you red light, you lose. Gary Phillips is the next one out, up against Mark Brew. Now, Gary Phillips is leading the Australian Championship. Mark Brew is driving Pommy Steve Reed's Red Wing Shoes Dragster because the Poms moved into Top Fuel.
There's a bit of seat swapping going on here. Brew and Phillips. Gary Phillips takes on Mark Brew.
Mark Brew, a top alcohol rookie, but good job so far.
Yeah, you don't see the flames out of these, but I tell you what, they've got plenty of mumbo when they go down. Whoa!
Gary Phillips a little bit out of line in the braking area, but a good 5.99. He's got the win. He had some catching up to do. Mark Brew put a big hole shot on him, did well in the Red Wings car, but there's no answer to Gary Phillips. Brilliant run.
Yeah, great angle on the start there. Look at the crew, because it's always terrific to have a look back at the crew. They ride every metre with them.
Certainly do, and now we move into the next pairing, and for the first time, two funny cars side by side. Look at that, look at the engine fire up. We'll see the body drop on Steve Harker's funny car. His wife Janelle there takes the stand out. All fiberglass or carbon fibre bodies, 540 cubic inch engines.
Out comes Dobson.
Al Dobson, the fireman from Perth. Steve Harker, running the Harker Transport Pennzoil car. And this pair should be pretty good. They qualified 4th and 5th. That makes them the closest pairing of the first round.
Tell you what, you need some firemen around. The way they've been throwing the flames around and the smoke, it's been fantastic. Everybody just, I mean, I've never seen pressure like this for a while. Every race has been so good. Harker now against Dobson. Here we go, Dobson, the Castrol car, closest to camera, nice even start. Oh, look at Dobson again. Gee, this car is so strong. Dobson, have a look at the crew. They go, yes, yes, yes. He's done it again. Oh, this car is a ripper. Gee, it's strong.
6.12 from the Castrol funny car, 365 kilometres an hour, and he's already got the measure of Steve Harker. Harker's 686 at just 293, couldn't compete, and a very happy Castrol team owner, Greg Gower.
Watch them come off the line there. See, when you see them slow-mode like that at a long range, you really see how twitchy they are when they first get the power down.
Winter Nationals top bike qualifying now, the third round of the series, and on top, Phil Howard from South Australia with a great 6.90.
As you can see now, getting rid of the excess water on the track area. You want the water down in the burnout area, but it gets dragged up onto the track. Phil Howard now, he comes out, South Australia aboard a Kawasaki. Gavin Spann from Queensland on board the Suzuki.
Gavin Spann used to run Pro Bike, now has added nitrous oxide to it, stepped it up, moved into Top Fuel motorcycle.
You talk about power, watch this, you're sitting on board a firecracker, a rocket. Look at this, side by side. Oh no, the fire's gone out, but let me tell you, they come home with a rush.
Oh, Phil Howard, 6.83 seconds, 285 kilometres an hour on two wheels.
Look at this, Howard and the Kawasaki sat up and he tucked himself down. They move around a bit.
Oh, they certainly do that. Mark Getty now on his Harley Davidson from South Australia. Dave McClurg on an old-style Honda Top Fuel bike. It's big, it's a dinosaur, but boy, it's got some power.
McClurg takes on Getty.
Boy, the Harleys have really brought Top Fuel motorcycle to life, Darryl. They are just so popular with the crowd.
Yeah, well, they make the right noise, I guess, but there's some very quick Kawasaki's, Suzuki's, the Japanese mark. I mean, they've been the forerunners. The Harleys are throwing out a challenge now. I cannot believe how they move around so much on these bikes, but another disappointing run.
Yeah, Dave McClurg shuttled off way early. Mark Getty, though, 7.42. 296 kilometres an hour on a Harley Davidson. That's tough.
Yeah, hard to believe, isn't it? Peter Allen now. Steve Smith.
Peter Allen it is. Look at the burnout on the Pennzoil bike. He's up against Scott Commons on a Harley Davidson. Scott also running for the Excessive Force team from South Australia.
Yeah, Smith not out yet. It's Scott Commons is coming out. Now remember, we had that fantastic run with Peter Allen on the bike, and that's the shot. Watch this, ride with him. Look at the way the body gets down. Oh, look at this thing coming together. Oh no, there had to be a touch there, I think. There had to be Allen. Allen shut it down. You ride with him again. They came across the line. Look at the look on the crew. This could have been very nasty.
Scott Commons, he comes off the line, he's headed left, he's virtually just out of control here. He tries to stay off that centre line, he's disqualified. Soonest he touched it, now he's hit the wheelie bars of Peter Allen's bike. Allen's on the centre line as well, he wins the race because Scott Commons crossed the centre line first, he wins.
Unbelievable stuff. can't believe, though, how Alan gets on the side of the bike the way he does.
Oh, unbelievable for all of these guys. Harley Davidson's again now. That's Steve Smith on the Silkerline bike. Now Brett Stevens for the Jack Daniels Racing Team.
Way they go again. Listen to the thunder. They call it rolling thunder. Look at them bucking around. Oh, they rock and roll all the way down to the cruisers. Yes, sir. We'll have that one. Well, top fuel. That's going to be interesting. But top alcohol now. That's been terrific as well.
We've got Steve Reed and John Noonan. Funny car versus Dragster again.
Yeah, I like these battles. They're really interesting. This car is just sensational, Noonan. He, as we said before, it's an Australian-built motor car, the only type, or this type, that's been built in Australia. Away they go. Let's have a look. Oh, no, the funny car, I think, is going to get the money. Yes, it is. Reed. Oh, good drive from Reed. Got away well and just kept the boot in it all the way.
Yeah, Steve Reed there. Have a look at this off the start line. John Noonan is normally sharp on the reactions, but this time he was left behind, and Steve Reed, the Newline car, all the way winner.
Just flew there, left Noonan in his weight. Alan Dobson now comes out in the Castrol weapon, and that's what it is, a weapon. And smokes it up yet again. Gee whiz, he's put in some impressive burnouts, no doubt about that. Oh, and gets a bit sideways at the end of it. He doesn't mind throwing it around. Here comes Gary Phillips.
Phillips is a championship leader. He's the #1 qualifier. He's been in the 5-second zone all weekend. Dobson is going to have to try everything he can here. Crew Chief Greg Gower's thrown absolutely all the horsepower possible into this car.
I get the feeling you think Gary Phillips is going to get this one.
Well, he's a championship leader by a clear way. He's looking good.
Here we go. Phillips and Dobson gets a little sideways and has a problem. And Phillips just comes down at the end of it. Have a look at the crew. They're showing the look of the strain, the pain of getting beaten there as he comes across in the other lane. But Dobson, whoa, what's this? We'll see the problem here, Rob.
Yes, the car's looking good. It's moving around a little bit, but really running, and then we see the supercharger explode. Backfires underneath there. We'll have a little flash of flame under the car about now.
Yeah, Rob, you've got to feel sorry for Dobson. He's run strong all weekend. Now, just before the bikes come back out again on the line, let's go back to Calder to the Nationals. Phil Howard, he certainly had his problems.
All right, set here should be a beauty. Can Howard pull it off from South Australia over Allen from Victoria?
Howard running the bike that Pommy Peter Allen used to run himself.
Yeah, must be hard for him. Away they go. Good even start. Allen's behind. He's trailing. Can he come back? Oh, look at him. Look at the body language as he gets on the bike there. He had to wrestle a machine. Now he comes over into the lane with Allen. Oh, he's okay, though. He should be able to pull it up. What am I saying? He's okay. You talk about body language. Have a look at that. And the bike says, thanks very much. I've won the race and I'm ready to go again. Amazing stuff from Calder. Won the race, came off over the line.
Ready to go again, and that's exactly what he is here. He's up against Mark Getty, semi-final time, top fuel motorcycle.
South Australian taking on South Australian here, Getty and Howard. Well, Howard, plenty of guts to come back. Good even start, both riders now. And there's nothing in this one. Both riding down, and I tell you what, the second half, didn't that make a difference?
710, 302 kilometres an hour for Phil Howard. That's where he won it, the speed. Getty 288.
Gee whiz, even till they got down to the line, but let me tell you, halfway down he really went. Peter Allen now and Brett Stevens. It's Victorian and Queenslander.
Peter Allen on the Pennzoil bike. It's a Kawasaki. Brett Stevens for the Harley fans.
Go the Harley. But Peter Allen, we've ridden with a couple of times through this program. Here's the shot. I love this shot. Have a look at this. Now watch him crack himself over. That's just to keep the bike up. You can see there he was trailing. You can see over his shoulder he was behind. And oh boy, I'm not sure how it finished up. I need to see the other view of it. Here it is. Watch him crack himself over. There he goes.
Allen working the body on the Pennzoil bike. From our view on the onboard camera, he looked like he was behind. Looks like the speed has done it for him. Steve Reed, big strong Burnout in the funny car. Up against Gary Phillips in the Dragster. All Queenslanders, but the funny car Dragster battle comes on again. Can we see Australia's first side-by-side 5-second top alcohol pass? It's never happened before.
It's been good all weekend, this, hasn't it? It's produced some terrific matchups.
Well, Gary Phillips, if he can win this race, he will build an unbeatable points buffer in the Winfield Pro Series.
Phillips and Reed. That's Reed there. Phillips, you'll come into view now. Two very well turned out motor cars. Reed would love to knock Phillips off. Away they go. Good even start now. Oh no! Look at this, Gary Phillips now. Reed comes back. Oh, I don't know. The hands have gone up. They've said yes. I need to have a look at that on the line because I really thought Reed had it, but Phillips came back. Watch it again.
Gary Phillips, he's got off the line really smartly. Have a look at the top end charge from Steve Reed in the Newlon funny car. This has come down to thousandths. The computer says 2/1000ths of a second.
So, after 7 rounds of the Pro Series, Queenslander Gary Phillips is 2,000 points clear of the rest of the field.
Well, Phil Howard had a problem in the semi-final. He oiled himself in the braking area, similar to what caused his crash at Calder. So, well, has he fixed it? Has it been a problem that is going to continue for the Kawasaki?
Well, we certainly hope so because, oh, hang on, there's fluid coming out of that. Is that a problem?
That doesn't look good. That is oil, and it's coming out the drive area of the bike. The officials will be onto that, and I don't think that they'll let him run. I can't imagine that they could take the risk.
Oh, your heart goes out to Phil Howard and his whole crew to go right through the weekend, get to the final and have a leak like that puts you out of business. That's a tough break.
Certainly is for Phil and Fat Cat Hoskins, the owner of the bike. But their bad luck means, of course, that this man, Peter Allen, he will be the NZ Winter Nationals champion. He's got a solo.
Okay, get your helmet and gloves out. We're going to put you on the back of the Kawasaki of Peter Allen. We've done it through the weekend. Sensational shots. Get ready. Ride with him, lean with him now. This is what it looks like. You can only imagine what it feels like. What about your eyes? They start to water yet?
After 3 rounds of the Top Fuel Motorcycle Series, Peter Allen leads over Bluey Howard, Jay Smith, and all the way down to Gavin Spann. We then move to Top Alcohol Eliminator at Eastern Creek Raceway, where Stephen Reed back on top with a 6.00 in qualifying.
Well, Top Alcohol now. These are the methanol-burning cousins of the Top Fuel cars. We'll see dragsters and funny cars. They mix it in together, and they always provide that close racing. Round 1 in the Top Gun car is John Noonan from Queensland up against a fellow banana bender, Mark Brew.
Yeah, 2 Queenslanders here, Mark Brew, John Noonan from Queensland. That's Brew there in the white colour car, and of course Noonan in that distinctive yellow car, the Top Gun car.
Yes, Mark Brew driving for Proforce Motorsport in Pommy Reed's alcohol car, actually, and of course John Noonan, what an ambassador for Top Gun.
Here we go, waiting for a start. Noonan takes on Brew, the 2 Queenslanders, Top Alcohol. Away they go, good start from both cars. Oh, listen to the drive of Noonan there. He had a bit of wheel spin, he just drove through it.
Incredible stuff, 6.06. Good time for John Noonan. He's leading the way so far this weekend. The Top Gun car looking good. Mark Brew, I think he broke a trans. It really revved hard.
Oh, yeah, you could hear it there. There's Steve Harker now from Queensland against Stan Tyndall from New South Wales. Now an unusual pair up here, of course. Same thing, Top Alcohol, just 2 different looking cars.
That's what it comes down to, the funny car, a fiberglass body draped over a short wheelbase front engine car. These run about 540 cubic inches of engine size. The dragsters normally around 430, and it all levels up in the performance stakes.
Well, he's been consistent right throughout the year without quite just getting the prize.
Well, he's right up there, and I think this weekend his qualifying position has moved him into 4th in the Winfield Pro Series. He'd like to go a little bit further, and well, it's only his 2nd season in Top Alcohol, so not too bad for Stan.
He's doing okay. Stanley Tyndall from New South Wales takes on yet another Queenslander. Wow, I tell you what, drag racing from Queensland, they certainly send a lot of representation down to New South Wales for this big meeting.
Yeah, the Queenslanders are trying to win the Pro Cup from ANDRA for, I think, the 5th year in a row for the top professional state.
Heading that way, I would think the way they're going, they're getting plenty of cash. Always ready for a match-up now. Away we go. It's Harker and Tyndall. Harker and Tyndall. Oh, there's not much in it. That's been the best race we've seen this morning. Oh, what a ripper. Harker just gets it, but look at the time there.
No shoot for Harker. No shoot into the gravel. Takes on the net. Yes. Burnett's done the job, but boy, a scary moment there for Steve Harker. We can see him moving in the car.
He's okay. That gravel pulled him nuts. What it had to do, remember, that's the area we had a big prang, and the car ended up right up over the hill just a year ago, but he's okay. He's up and sitting. Now, let's have a look at this again. Harker gets the cash with a big run, but watch this. The chute just doesn't come out, and Rob, this is the moment that all drag racers fear the most. Now there it is, he's hurtling along at an unbelievable speed, he's got no control, he tries to get the sand trap, he does that and it did what it had to do.
366 kilometres an hour to 0.
Hey, you right, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Mate?
I pushed the chute lever and didn't get it right down quick enough, that's all. By the time I started bouncing, by the time I got it out, it was too late.
All the safety equipment doing the job perfectly there with a lucky escape by Steve Harker. Back on the start line though, the top alcohol funny car action continues. Top qualifier Stephen Reed in the Newlon funny car. He was the number 1 with a 6.000 second elapsed time. Number 8, John Crazy Man Taylor from the south coast of New South Wales in the Corvette. The interstage, out they come. Taylor in front momentarily. Then Reed just powers his way down the Eastern Creek quarter mile. 6.019, 373.87 kilometres an hour. Big win to Steve Reed. Burning out across the line already, Jeff Burnett and, of course, Gary Phillips. Gary Phillips has already won the Australian Top Alcohol Championship for 1995. He's got enough points to be in an unbeatable position. Jeff Burnett, well, he's the number 2 at the moment and would like to make sure that nobody can catch him from behind in the championship points. They're all after that Winfield Pro Series money, that's for sure. Phillips now just bumping in the Travel Air Tours, Rocket Industries, Aussie Bananas, Dragster, powers away from the start, close to the center line, back into the middle of his lane now, and a good win, 610, 358.32 kilometres an hour.
Still with the grand finals at Eastern Creek Raceway, and a great 7:03 for Peter Allen to put him on top of the Top Fuel bike ladder.
Brett Stevens, he brings out the Harley now. Is the Harley good enough?
Well, running for Jack Daniels and Brett Stevens has been doing plenty of racing all across Australia with the Harley. Just absolutely loves the 2-cylinder bikes.
Stevens and Spann. It's not often lately that we've seen these things run in the daytime hours, and I tell you what, they're awesome at night, but you really get a perspective of speed in the daytime, don't you?
Well, the Harley against the Jap bike, and of course that's always an area of contention. The Harley guys don't like the idea of having a Japanese bike out in front.
I know where my heart is, I can tell you.
Gavin Spann, he'll be trying to do his best. As he said, the bike has been running faster than ever before. Brett Stevens, he's in line for the quickest Harley in Australia award. There's only a couple of hundredths of a second in it.
2 Queenslanders lining up, and let me tell you, these things do not hang about. Here we go, setting astride of, oh, the Harley in the air as it comes off the line, but look at Spann. Spann comes back, the Harley's still in front of, I don't know, I think Spann maybe, yes. Oh, what about that for a matchup? And look at the times, look at the speeds.
There was only 0.003 of a second across the finish line. 7:52 for Spann, a 7:55 for Brett Stevens. You don't get bike racing any closer than that in the world.
Unbelievable. The Spann put it out on the dirt and the grass to pull it up, and watch the Harley. Look at it get up on the air and have a look how he's got to try and fight it back. Now Spann got his money there, but I tell you what, he's all over the side of the Harley and he come fighting back.
And Spann, look at it on the line. Edge, 13,000ths of a second.
Great stuff. Ho-ho, loving this. Phil Howard from South Australia will take on Kerry Ellis from Queensland.
Kerry Ellis is on another one of these nitrous oxide assisted bikes. It's a Kawasaki. Phil Howard, of course, well based on a Kawasaki, but a hand-built Puma engine, and this is one of the championship contenders.
Look at them light them up here. Don't the public come alive when the 2 wheel boys come out to play. Oh boy, I tell you what, sitting on one of these things, you'd want to tickle like Farlap, I reckon.
Well, too much for me. These guys are the heroes of drag racing for my money. Phil Howard. He has run over 200 mile an hour, won the Nationals, fell off and said no big deal.
Yeah, well, that's something else. Okay, Howard and Ellis.
Kerry Ellis already in the beams. We can still see Howard moving in the background.
Well, there's the two whites on there.
Ellis is staged. Boy, Bluey Howard's taken forever. He's really taken a risk here. He's got 20 seconds to get in or he's in trouble. That's the rules. And red light.
And away they go. There's a red light, so it really doesn't mean too much. But look at Ellis, just powers him down. The Kawasaki over the line. Kerry Ellis time 2:73.87. But I want to see the replay.
Well, Ellis is the winner, but I don't think that Bluey Howard got his bike into the start line in time. The rules say that once one racer is in, and we can see Kerry Ellis is fully in, the other must be in within 20 seconds or the starter can throw the switch. There's no second light on there, so he's not in, and that's exactly what's happened, I'd say.
Yeah, red light, no doubt about that. Gee whiz, they were there a long time. Ellis waiting to his. Well, have a look at this. This is the bike owner. He's not happy.
John Hoskins is not happy about this. He thinks that that Ellis is staged.
Now, you talked about the time.
27.5 seconds there on the watch. You saw it, so Phil Howard had plenty of time. With him out of the running, I guess this man on the Pennzoil bike, Peter Allen, is the likely man to take the Australian Championship in Top Fuel motorcycle. Pommy Pete Allen been riding two-wheel drag racing machines for well over 20 years, one of the original pioneers of Top Fuel motorcycle, and he's up against one of the rookies, Ron Fowler from Queensland, one of the Harley-Davidson riders. Peter Allen top qualified with a 7.03. Fowler, he knows he's up against it, but put out a good 7.7 second pass in qualifying. Peter Allen is always the optimum in concentration on the Pennzoil bike. Fowler got out with a red light, trying too hard. Look at the Pennzoil bike. Didn't look too good there. I think he might have wounded it. Looks like a drive pulley off the Harley-Davidson. But the bottom line is Peter Allen takes the win, 7.01. Here on the replay, the bike comes out strong. Peter Allen using plenty of body language. There it is, flame out the right-hand side. I'd say he's done another piston on the bike. Keeps the throttle open though, that's for sure. 7.01, 275 kilometres an hour. Peter Allen moving forward. Now here comes Dave McClurg, the only Honda in the field. They call this bike the Dinosaur. It's old, it's heavy, but it is awesome. Jeff Smith in beside him on the Harley-Davidson. Getting pushed back now is Dave McClurg. Very, very large motorcycle, the old style Top Fuel bike. Fuel injected, supercharged on high doses of nitromethane. Oh, problem for Smith. He's off the bike. He knows his grand finals is over. Now Dave McClurg has got a free run. He can take it easy or he can run the bike all the way down the Eastern Creek quarter mile. Listen to that distinctive exhaust note of the Honda. Cracks the throttle open, really leaning off the bike. You can see the wheel stand, it's moving around a lot. 281 kilometres an hour. Great run there from Dave McClurg.
We're back with Top Alcohol, and we've got Gary Phillips and John Noonan lining up here, and the Top Gun car of John Noonan. Big burnout from him, and I tell you what, this action, Rob, over this particular meeting with all the controversy and the weather, has just been unbelievable.
Well, it's been one of the longest drag race meetings I've ever been at, Darryl. We've had day 1, 2, 3, we're into day 4 now. The championship is what this guy wanted, Gary Phillips, and he's got it. He's wrapped it up. He wants to finish the meeting on a high now, the season for him with the car. He wants the event, but he's already the Australian champion.
So, Gary Phillips, he takes our congratulations back to Queensland. John Noonan from Queensland would probably like to say, well, you got the championship, but I'm going to take the meeting. We've been here long enough. Okay, set now. Noonan and Phillips, the two Queenslanders, This is the top alcohol division. Here we go. Good even start. Both get away, but the Top Gun car just powers now. They came out of the box all right, but John Noonan said, "You can have the championship. I'm taking the meeting."
Good run. A 6-1-1 from John Noonan. And I've got to say, this is the first time this season I've seen Gary Phillips with an Achilles heel. He's got a problem in that car. The car is shut off. John Noonan drives away with it.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you're going to have a problem, now's the time to have it after you won the championship. All right, on the line is Steve Reid. He's got to make a solo run. Away he goes because Steve Harker, of course, had the big crash earlier on in the meeting. So Steve Reid does a solo run. There are the stats, and he'd be pretty happy about that. Bad luck, though, for Steve Harker.
Well, the Top Fuel motorcycles are back, Daryl, and here's this man, Gavin Spann, with a nitrous oxide Suzuki.
This Suzuki is something else, isn't it? Have a look at it, light it up. I reckon Kevin Swanson'd love to do this. Could you imagine Swanson on this thing?
Now the story with this bike, it is for sale, $25,000. To start from scratch to get a bike like this, you're talking $60,000. Just watch him go on the top bikes.
Rear shot of Gavin Spann from Queensland. Look at the size of it. Wait a minute, Peter Allen, this is not a handicap event. He's just left it. No good looking down, son, because Spann's just gone past you. I can't believe how early he left.
He left before the switch was thrown. He must have had some sort of problem on the Pennzoil bike. Gavin Spann's into the final. Look at that.
Well, he's gone. Spann just sits there nice and cool. And he started to look down immediately. So there he is now, looking down immediately. Got a problem.
Well, Kerry Ellis now on the Kawasaki. Can we see two nitrous bikes into the final?
Taking on Dave McClurg with the supercharged Honda. And this should be a terrific match-up, this one. There's the Honda getting backed up now, Dave McClurg.
They call this bike the dinosaur because it's big, it's heavy, it's old, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it's got plenty of hoochie-cooch. And he doesn't mind driving it that way either, or riding it, I should say. So Ellis and McClurg, two Queenslanders. The rear tyres on these things are just amazing. But watch the body language when they get going on the bikes. They really have to offset themselves to keep the things in a straight line. And just watch what they do with their feet. Kawasaki, Honda, away they go. The Kawasaki gets away. Honda comes back. I think there's been a red light, but we won't worry about that at the moment. Have a look at the body language. Have a look at the body language on McClurg I talked about. Ellis gets the cash.
Yeah, the red light has cost McClurg the money. Look at him leave. He is already working on that bike, moving the body around. It's all wasted with a red light, but he's had to work hard all the way down the strip.
Yeah, working hard down on the grid too is 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock rock. We got some rock and roll. John Noonan, he might be a champion bloke. The way he's been running too from Queensland. He takes on Steve Reid, another Queenslander. Now, what about this racing? How good has it been?
Well, it has been absolutely dynamite all the way through the grand finals. The crowd that's weathered the weather and it's stuck with us. Boy, they've enjoyed this. Top alcohol, it'll be the same. John Noonan, Steve Reid, the Queenslanders, the funny car for Newlon for Steve Reid, and of course, John Noonan. You can't say the name without having Top Gun attached to it.
Yeah, Reid lights him up, and doesn't he do it in a big way? Noonan says, I'll match you for leaving some rubber on the track here. They've got to back him up now. I always like these matchups here. They're pretty unpredictable. And a lot of people still ask why you can have two totally different cars together in a final like this.
Comes down to power to weight ratio. The funny car's heavier, has a bigger engine, more horsepower, so it all evens up. And believe me, the mathematics has worked all the time. If you think about parity, Top Alcohol is the best example of it.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it? Stephen Reid. I know I've mentioned Dulux a lot of times over the period of the year, but I know they've prepared so many of these cars and they just do an amazing job. I mean, when you think of the wear and tear and the toughness of these machines and the speeds they do, they always look like $1 million.
Well, it must be 400 km/h paint because that's what we've got in Top Alcohol. John Noonan wants his first win of the season. Steve Reid, he's lost his championship this year. That belongs to Gary Phillips. He wants to do this for Newlon.
Who do you like quickly, Noonan or Reid?
Can't pick it. Too close. Too close.
I'll go Reid. Here we go. Noonan, Reid. Let's see if I can pick him. Funny car. Away we go. Out of the blocks. Noonan gets away well. Reed's come back at him. Oh, Noonan! Noonan got him. What do I know? John Noonan, well done.
John Noonan, a 6.13. Steve Reed, a 6.08. Once again, it was those reaction times that Andrew Voss told us about.
Ah, fast stuff here from both drivers as they drove their way to the line. Congratulations to Johnny Noonan. Corey Wingard's down there, and I tell you what, Jono, he'll be a happy boy.
John, well done. Steve set the pace all weekend, but you've grabbed him in the grand finals and it's yours. Congratulations.
Thanks very much. It was a tough run, and the last 5 days have been full of dramatic events, particularly when we went up the top there. And it's great to go from the sand pit into the winner's circle, I can tell you that. It's great for Top Gun.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much.
A fantastic personal victory there for John Noonan, but the new 1995 Australian Top Alcohol Champion is Gary Phillips, well clear of the rest of the field.
Well, a big crowd here. They've been entertained in a lot of ways. Let me tell you, Eastern Creek's turned it on. Have a look at this shot now. Ellis and Spann will come out on the bikes.
And this is something we've never seen in Australia. 2 nitrous oxide assisted bikes in the final of Top Fuel Motorcycle. We normally see nitro burners.
Have a look at the vibration coming out of the machines. That's Gavin Spann, Kerry Ellis on the orange machine. Watch him light it up now. I always love the way these bikes have got to virtually fight these bikes all the way down. There's different techniques too. Some drag their feet, some tuck them up on the little pegs. They really have a style of their own.
I don't think there's any right or wrong way. It's a case of, well, you just get to the other end first. Gavin Spann said it. They're the rules.
Ellis and Spann, away they go, and again, have a look at this. Spann, see you later. Wow, they had some trouble here today.
Kerry Ellis went nowhere. Gavin Spann, 7.65, takes his first win in Top Fuel Motorcycle. Looks like no gears for Kerry Ellis.
Oh, you got to feel sorry for him to get that close and then blow it.
Just left him at the start. He didn't get off the line.
No, I didn't know what happened to Kerry, but we've been trying to win this race for probably 10 years at least, and every time I come here, this track to me is just jinxed, and this weekend has just been excellent. I couldn't wish for anything better.
Worth the change up from Pro Stocks?
Oh, I think so. It's great.
Plenty of emotion for Gavin Spann there. Congratulations, but the championship stays with Pommy Pete Allen, well clear on 4,300 points.